Hi everybody, Baruch Hashem, we're continuing again. We're finishing up the Sikha Parshas Bo, 5752. Let me find it's from the talk spoken on the fourth day of the week of the Torah portion Bo, the third of Shevat. That was the fourth day of the week, was third of Shevat, and on Shabbos, the Torah portion Bo, the sixth of Shevat. So it was spoken on the third of Shevat and the sixth of Shevat. It's translated from Yiddish. And right now we're on page 128, and we're talking about the whole idea of that when Hashem took Moshe Rabbeinu to Pharaoh in the beginning of the Parsha, is talking about a very special level that Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid that it was possible that a soul could be enclosed in a body and see such a high revelation of Pharaoh. Like we explained, that Pharaoh has to do in holiness, it has to do with the idea of Hashem, his house of Hashem himself. And nobody can see the light of Hashem, the essence, and by the essence of Hashem, experience all the revelations when you're by His essence to stay alive in the body. That's what we've been discussing. And then we went on and talked about how the Frierdiker Rebbe received this special level. Let's go further. Basically, we're talking about how that this level of godliness, we're talking about that the essence of God is revealed in each and every person. He says this started with Moshe Rabbeinu, and it happened by the time of giving the Torah, and it's going to happen in a total, complete way any second now when we're going to have the final revelation. That Mamish, what will be is Hashem himself, the lights of Hashem himself, part of Hashem will be revealed in the creation. The creation will remain a creation. In general, the creation is to remain, in general, when a person's something separate, what that means, he's a created being, he's separate. So in order to generally, the idea when a created being he wants to live, he doesn't want to go out of himself. But the nature of a Jew and the nature of the soul is that I want to return back to its source, as Hashem. So when there's too high a level of godliness is revealed, the body cannot take it, so therefore if it cannot take it, it'll either pass away, or it just can't take it. It can't be in body. The body is covering over this high revelation of godliness. This is all the way up to our generation, the Rebbe explains. The previous Lubavitch Rebbe, he says, is the Mashiach of the generation. He says that he was merited this great light of Hashem and each yahrzeit. And each yahrzeit he reaches a higher level, and he explains that he gives this over to the next generation, which is our generation. The Rebbe explains that our generation, everything is done, so therefore there's no need to die. Nobody ever said such a thing like this. Rebbe said this in front of thousands of people. He explains from the Parsha and everything, we're in a level now that you don't have to die because the world is totally refined. And once the world is totally refined, it can receive the light of the essence of God himself and stay in existence. And the Rebbe says that's done, and we're going to see inside, and the Rebbe talks about it spiritually, our eyes see it, just we're closed, that we have to open our physical eyes. This is like one of the most amazing things ever said. Okay. So let's look on page 128.13. And the Rebbe also explains, before this, he also explains that the total perfection, miyad, the coming of the Mashiach, is the perfection from Moshe Rabbeinu, Yisro, Baal Shem Tov, and finally the final Redeemer, the David, from David, King David, which is the King Mashiach, which is the Rebbe. So he says that's why it says that Moshe Rabbeinu says, please send the one who's appropriate to be sent, because Moshe Rabbeinu wanted the final redemption right away, and he knew that he wouldn't be able to do it. He wasn't the level to bring it. So now we're in 13, and we may say this, when Rebbe says, and we may say it's a chiddush, it's a new thing, nobody ever said this before, just like this that we talked about. The whole idea over here is a new thing nobody ever said before the Rebbe said it. That, as above mentioned, is also alluded to in the day of the 10th of Shevat, when it occurs this year on the fourth day of the week, upon which nitlu ha'ma'oros, the luminous were removed. So the Rebbe is going to explain about, remember the beginning? That's why I went over it again today, because it says that this is from the talks of the fourth day of the week, and the fourth day of the week was also the day when the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away. But it says over here that 10th of Shevat occurs on this, the fourth day of the week. And when we look at the creation of the world, we see on the fourth day of the week, it says that God put the two great lights, and then they didn't get along, so he made one light less, which is the moon, and had his all stars. You look at the Chumash. So it says, when you look in Hebrew, nitlu, it sounds the same, but it depends how you spell it, what it means. So it says, nitlu ha'ma'oros, that the luminaries were removed. Nitlu here is spelled with a tes, meaning to remove. And nital, to remove, is with a tes. However, on the very same day, it says, nitlu ha'ma'oros, at the fourth day of the month, it says that the luminaries are suspended, the sun and the moon were put in the sky. Nitlu spelled with a taf, meaning they were suspended, they were hung up to be light to us, to enlighten us. When it's spelled with the tes, it means they were taken away. Like the moon went away, it wasn't so bright anymore. It was taken away, the lights went away. But when it's spelled the other ways, it means they were suspended, put in heaven. So on this day, this is amazing what the Rebbe is going to say here. The Rebbe is going to explain about how by the Frierdiker Rebbe that the lights weren't removed. When the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away, they were rather they were immediately after being removed. They were put up the two big luminaries, and they were suspended and said, "We'll go inside." On this day was the passing of my revered father-in-law, the Rebbe. The luminaries were removed. However, not in the manner that it remains a state they were removed, the lights that were removed, godly lights of the world, heaven forbid, rather that the state that they were removed, immediately the two big luminaries were suspended in a much higher manner. As known that through the passing of a person, there comes about a higher ascent in revelation from the level of the splendor of Hashem is revealed and in a transcendent manner throughout the worlds. So the Rebbe is going to explain why that when he passed away, it was removed, but then it was put back. So Rebbe, we're explaining what this means. What's it mean that when the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away, there was a movement, but after right that, there were two big luminaries in the world. And they're a much higher level. This comes about, he says, so as it's known that through the passing, when a person passes away, there comes a higher ascent and revelation from the level of the splendor of Hashem is revealed in a transcendent manner throughout the world. So when a person passes away and goes to a higher level, he brings down, I think what the Rebbe is trying to explain here, that it brings down a higher level of godliness, like we said before. And then the soul is found through all worlds more than during his lifetime. So therefore, when he passes away, the Hashem is more revealed. And then the soul is found in all the worlds more than during his lifetime, because it's reached a higher spiritual level that Hashem is more revealing to him. So everything is still connected. And through his chassidim, followers, and the students who are mukusha are tied to him, as souls and bodies, down here in the 9th generation, the Rebbe says, this is the first time anybody says this, the Rebbe says this is the 9th generation. This is the 9th generation from Baal Shem Tov. The Frierdiker Rebbe was the 8th generation. He says that people who were tied to him, were tied to the previous Lubavitch Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, they're down here in the Rebbe's generation, Melchus Mashiach, the 9th generation, spelled out with a tav, like the tav of Nitlu that they were suspended, as opposed to the tes that they were removed. So he explains over here again, if you have to understand the language in Hebrew, but the one word means they were suspended, and the other word, if you change the letter from taf to sav, from a taf to a tet, that the tet means removed. So the Rebbe says when you read this word nitlu, they were taken away, you could read it, something was taken away, or you can mean that it means that the two great lights were illuminated. So this the Rebbe is explaining, that we go over this. And then then when the soul is found through all worlds more during than his lifetime, he goes to a higher spiritual level, he gets to see this level that Hashem shines into him completely. He sees godliness in a complete way. And through his chassidim, the followers and the students who are merkusher to him as souls and bodies down here in the 9th generation, Tisha, 9th, spelled with a tav, like the tav of Nitlu, they were suspended, as opposed to the test, Nitlu, they were removed, is accomplished that also in this physical world, there should be the perfection of illuminators who are suspended. So what's going to happen? To all of this should be done through that our work, our generation, we are accomplishing that this physical world, this is what are we doing? Me, you, all the Jews, all the non-Jews, everybody who's serving Hashem is doing this right now. That we're caused with, that there should be the perfection of luminaries being suspended, that it should be, everybody should see it. From him all lights burst forth and revealed in a soul within a body in this physical world. So the Rebbe is explaining again, he's pointing out here that the main thing is that everything that we should remain alive in this world and have all the revelations. That this is our generation. The Rebbe says, Davka, this is our generation. No other generation had this. This is something special for us. And from this is understood the innovation of our generation, the ninth generation, opposed to all the generations before this one, even as opposed to the generation right before this one. So the Rebbe says there's something special. We have all generations, even the one before this one, which is the eighth, since the redemption did not come then in actuality. Indeed, the phenomena have come to Pharaoh. The revelation of all the lights bursting forward in this physical world was not at the height of perfection, namely as a soul in a healthy body. The soul left the body, and also the body was in the soul. It was in a state such as much as the speech was in exile. So the Rebbe is talking about the Frierdiker Rebbe, that the Frierdiker Rebbe did not reach such a level that the height of perfection, that in a healthy body he should be able to receive all these lights. And he said, let's go. This to come to Pharaoh. I'm going to go up above again. Come to Pharaoh on page 130. Come to Pharaoh, the revelation of all the lights bursting forward in this physical world was not at the height of perfection, namely why? So that God wasn't totally revealed as a soul in a healthy body. The soul left the body. That's why his soul, the Frierdiker Rebbe, had to pass away in order to see these lights. And also as the soul was within the body, and says even the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, even when a soul was in his body, it was still his exile was in a speech was in exile. Like I said before, we talked about, compared this to Moshe Rabbeinu, that he couldn't bring down and reveal all the godliness that Hashem had given to him. This is, however, not so in our generation. As the Rebbe says, this is it, because this is our generation. Nobody ever said something like this. First, the Rebbe builds up and says how special the Frierdiker Rebbe is. And the Frierdiker Rebbe sees this level below Pharaoh. And every day there's a yard sight from him, this level he even reveals more and it comes down. And then he says that we have to, through our avoda, we can complete the Frierdiker Rebbe service. And that's the ninth generation, was the generation of Mashiach, which is the Rebbe's the Rebbe. And he said we don't have to die anymore. This is, however, not so in our generation. We're talking about that there's the idea of the speech being in exile. I think that's... let's hold on, maybe I said that wrong. And also the soul was within the body, was in a state of as such as that the speech was in exile, etc. This is how we're talking about, that the soul being in a healthy body, however, is not so in our generation. Not that the last generation of exile and the first generation of redemption, in which immediately the luminaries were suspended, meaning to say, not only is there no absence, heaven forbid, of the big luminaries, of the revelation. What's the big luminaries? The revelation of the written Torah and the oral Torah. Rather, on the contrary, there comes about an additional perfection in this, not in the matter of heart to speech, in the oral Torah, and the heart of verbalization in the written Torah, due to one's transcending this. The Rebbe is saying that we're going to come to such a level that we're going to have all the lights here, and everything's going to be revealed, and it's going to become even more perfected, because we're not going to have the problem that Moshe Rabbeinu had, and that the Frierdiker Rebbe, not to be able to reveal godliness down in the world. That's when they were hard to speech, hard to verbalize, because they were too high to bring down these levels in the world. They couldn't bring such levels down. The Rebbe is higher than them all and can bring everything down. As such, that as souls in the body we receive in an internal fashion the revelation. What do we receive internally? The revelation of the bursting of all the lights. We see godliness in his essence, which we're suspended now through the phenomenon of our righteous Mashiach coming now, about whom it says, who's coming? Because the Rebbe is coming now. Please send the one who's appropriate to be sent. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu said. And we will teach Torah to the whole entire nation, including the new secrets of the Torah, which will be revealed by me, Hashem. And this, so on page 131. And this accomplishes the elevation of all generations before this. Wow. So we're going to have to, what we're doing right now, learning Torah, and spreading the words of the Rebbe and spreading Hasidus, we're doing something that elevates everybody. And we have the job to elevate all the generations. This is an amazing thing. It says, and this accomplishes the elevation of all generations before this one, through the phenomenon of those who dwell in the dust will arise and sing, and the Bailu at our heads, that we're going to bring everybody back. The innovation of this generation, what's so special of this generation, the next generation, as opposed to all the other generations before this, is clearly in the service of the generation. So now, our service is something special, something different than any time before this. This is special to us. All the generation going back to Moshe, to Renu, until Adam Rishon, this is a special for us. In this generation, there has been an immense and immeasurable greater addition in comparison to the generations before this in the service of spreading Torah and Judaism. That we're doing much more teaching Torah and Judaism as well as disseminating the well speaks of Hasidus outwards, both in the great abundance of this, as well as not only just teaching Torah and Judaism, but especially setting this teaching Hasidus at every place through the whole world, as seen both in the great abundance of this, the Jewish books that are printed. For my own self, it's an amazing thing, because when I became firm was 1975. There were very few English books. I remember the Chumash was Silverstein. They had very little in English. And this the Rebbe is saying that we see the great abundance of Jewish books that are printed, that they're books printed and also in English, lots, as well as in the making. So one thing is we're going to see as we see both in the great abundance of this, the Jewish books that are printed, etc., as well as in the making the entire world, including the outermost of which there is no further outward than it, into a vessel to receive the great lights. So this is as well as we're seeing the spreading of Yiddishkeit well springs, and we're making the whole world a place that it should be a vessel that it should receive it. Because the whole question before was, if you're not a proper vessel, you couldn't see the essence of godliness. You have to die first. The Rebbe says, no, we're making the whole world that it's all refined. And by the Frierdiker Rebbe had to die, but nobody has to die, because we're making the whole world a way that it can see that it can be in with the essence of God, the house of Pharaoh. Into a vessel to receive, that's he says, that outward then, into a vessel to receive the great lights, both in regard to the Jewish people, through the 613 commandments, as well as in regard to the nations of the world. So the Rebbe said we have to elevate them, and we have to teach them, so they also can receive the essence of godliness, through the spreading of the 7 Noahide commandments, as such as we illuminate, as such that we illuminate the entire world with the mitzvah. So by spreading Torah and mitzvahs to everybody, to the Jews and to the non-Jews. That's why what do? We light up the whole world with the mitzvah, which is called the lamp, and the Torah, which is called light. Generally, it says the mitzvah in a manner of bursting forth of all light. So everything sees God. That's saying everything sees godliness, so that every person can receive the light as a healthy soul in a healthy body. So this is the level why are we spreading and doing work and making the world holy? So it can refine everybody, and they can have a healthy body and a refined body, so they can also receive the light from Hashem. To the extent that we've seen actuality, has spoken several, we're on page 132. To the extent that we've seen in actuality, has spoken several times recently, how the nations of the world in many. Now the Rebbe is going to talk about that. Remember, he talked about earlier about how when the Jews left from Egypt, that's made a big thing, and it's made a big emphasis is made in the Chumash about how the people of the Egyptians were very happy, had chen. They were very give everything they could give over to the Jewish people, take with them. They were very, very happy. They were very supportive. They helped them out. So the Rebbe says we see this now in our generation. He's referring to the Jews, especially in Russia, that there was a country that was against the Jews, and it was an iron curtain, and put through Jews in jail, and murdered Jews and killed Jews just for teaching Judaism. Now they came a country that not only did they let the Jews alone and let them go if they wanted to go, but they helped them. He says this shows this is the times of Mashiach. So let's go. To the extent that we see in actuality, as spoken several times recently, how the nations of the world in many countries assisted the Jewish people in their service. Similar and even more than how it was at the Exodus from Egypt. To the extent that even that country, Russia, which was completely locked up for many years and did not let Jews leave there, and did not let them fulfill Torah and its commandments in a complete manner, etc. Indeed, recently it changed from one extreme to the other extreme, and now not only do they let Jews conduct themselves as they wish, and they let them leave the country. What more, they even assist them in this. So this is an amazing thing. This is signs of Mashiach, that everything is being revealed. That the Goyim are seeing what's happening. They're seeing the godly light, that they have to help the Jews because we're special. That through helping us, we can help more people and do more good stuff and reveal more godliness and take us something sooner and sooner. To the extent that we actually see now that in the addition to the Jewish people being all ready for the redemption, also the nations of the world are all ready. Rebbe says though every place is ready for God. That the Jewish people should already leave exile and go into the land of Egypt in the true and complete redemption. And the souls and bodies without any interruption at all, we immediately come to the ultimate perfection. We immediately come to the ultimate perfection in the true and complete redemption, that the complete revelation of the bursting of the lights, and Hashem shall be an eternal, and Hashem should be for you an eternal light. Oh well. I think, thank you everybody. What time? How much time we have? 20 minutes. Oh, it's funny. I thought it was more. I was trying to get you. Okay. Sorry, I didn't connect my clock today, everybody. Anyways. And from this is understood the lessons that in the present time come to Pharaoh. So what are we going to learn now? I mean, I was thinking about this. How do we see Pharaoh nowadays? And whenever I see, like, people doing Torah and mitzvahs, and they're happy, and they can have difficulties in their lives, it doesn't matter. They're just happy to serve Hashem. You see this light. They light up. They say thank Hashem, and then shul. They daven with kavanah. They have serious intent. And most of these people have very little background. And you see other people, very many miraculous things about how many people are given over. It's interesting. I'd like to share. I was once several years ago. There's a great tzaddik, his name is Nisan Hayworth. He's a good big chassid of the Rebbe, Alav Shalom. And I saw him in later years in his life when after he got very sick. And it was interesting, he wasn't complaining that he was sick. He wasn't complaining, I don't feel well. His complaint was, I can't put on my tefillin. The complaint was, I can't do Torah and mitzvahs. In other words, it was similar, like we're looking over here, talking about the Frierdiker Rebbe. His complaint was that he couldn't spread Chassidus. The whole thing is that he wants to serve Hashem. No matter what's happening, no matter what the darkness is, his whole thing is just let me serve God. There are many other stories, but let's go a little bit further. Okay. From this it's understood that at least, okay, we've spoken many times that we have ended the Kitzim. Date signifies the completion of the preparation of the redemption, and we've already finished everything necessary to bring the redemption, and for a long time already the redemption should have come. For reasons which are completely not understood, it has not yet come. And this is the Rebbe saying. The Rebbe saying, I don't understand. The redemption should have been here years ago. We should be in the third base of Mikdash already. The Rebbe who sees everything, the genius of geniuses, the one who's one with Hashem, says, by me I don't understand we're not in the third base of Mikdash. There's no reason, he says. From this is understood that at least now the redemption must come literally immediately, and come in and in the common saying, it is the highest time for the true and complete redemption. In the Yiddish they say the hechster Zeit. This is the highest time, no more special time than this second now for the redemption to come. And it's understood to note that what's it mean, the wording, the highest time? What's it mean, the hechster Zeit, the highest time? It alludes to the content of the redemption. It talks about the redemption. What's it mean? Namely, that time is Zman, time is which has a relation to limitations, because time has past, present, and future. It's someplace. Becomes the highest time. What's it mean, the highest time? As such, there is no higher than it. Meaning that the limitations of time itself becomes limitless, highest. including in a manner that they become literally one thing, similarly to that what was spoken about regarding the bursting of all lights. And we talked about that all the lights will burst through, and you'll still stay in your body. We'll see it now in a physical body. So the same thing with time, is that time is going to be, time itself has an idea of limitation, but the highest times means the unlimited time of time. I don't know, I was trying to think maybe Shabbos is like this, but we know the idea of highest time, like it says by Yom Kippur is the most special day, Hashem forgives us, it's the highest when the Holy of Holies, when you're praying in different time, we have in the concept of higher times. But the highest time is a time that is tied in with Hashem himself, whatever that understands. And that must be tied in, and that's why it's tied in, so that's tied in also to that's revealed through the limitation. On the contrary, the main emphasis in this is on the limitation of the physical time. Since in the spiritual aspects, including the highest levels, we have already a state of perfection, including the perfection of spiritual redemption. So the Rebbe says this has to do with physical time, doesn't have to do with the spiritual time, because in the spiritual time we've already finished everything. The spiritual eyes of the Jews already see the redemption. There must be only now there must only be the opening of the physical eyes, that they may also see the redemption as it is revealed to the physical eyes in the present time. Lush and language a little bit. Now there must only be the opening of the physical eyes. We have to open our eyes and see that they also may see the redemption. That we should open our eyes and see Mashiach's here, and see that the Jews are holy and special, and see that the thousands of Jews throughout the world are turning onto Yiddishkeit. You go to shuls nowadays, Orthodox shuls, they're full of balchuvas. All over, never happened like this. This is seeing the redemption. We're seeing that people are tying directly into Hashem, and they're giving their lives over, and they're happy with it. And they're doing with joy and happiness, as it is revealed to the physical eyes in the present time. This phenomenon, where I say, talk where I daven, and I know some of the people there, and they have some issues in regard to things they maybe shouldn't be doing or this or that, but they're so strong with God, and it's amazing. People I see and work with and talk with, or work with me, and we spend time together. You see this, you see the idea of God here through the physical body. And the more we learn Chassidus, the more I'm studying this, the more I'm able to see it. It's like explaining how things work. And the Rebbe, remember, he says spiritually this is all taken care of. Also, as also simply understood, that the main yearning for the redemption is not that much from the perspective of the spiritual aspects and the soul. We could think the main thing is that we want God. I want my soul's journey to be back with Hashem. The Rebbe says this is not the main thing. The main, since from the perspective of the spiritual aspects of the soul is complete, that everything that is spiritually, we've done everything, we're complete. And although a Jew is in a soul and a physical body within this physical world, however, from the perspective of the soul, the spiritual aspects, the darkness of the world is not felt. So the Rebbe says, so you could say, okay, so from a spiritual aspect, we don't see it, but we're living in this world, and we have to deal with the problems in this world. The Rebbe said even that the soul is such a special level, he doesn't see the darkness. He just sees Hashem and spirituality. The darkness of the world doesn't affect him, the limitations doesn't affect him. Whereas from the perspective of the physical aspects of the body, indeed there it is mainly felt the concealment of godliness, and as a result this arouses with greater strength the yearning for the redemption. So it says that since by the body we do feel lacking, we're not healthy, we don't feel spiritual, we feel lacking, and we feel that godliness is concealed because it's not revealed in us. So therefore we say we don't want this. We want to be with the soul. We want to be one with Hashem. Our life right now isn't good. We're not the level we're supposed to be. We're not the level of Mashiach. We're shining bright lights like the lights. But that's not happening to us. We're lacking. And we want to be. So that's the Rebbe's saying this should rouse a greater strength and yearning for Mashiach. There's more strength and yearning you have for Mashiach, the sooner you bring him down. And the innovation of the redemption, it's on page 134, and the innovation of the redemption is expressed in the fact that the revelation of the bursting of all the lights will also be in the physicality of the world seen to the physical eye, in the physical time and place. that it will be a dwelling place for Hashem. So the Rebbe is saying the redemption we're going to see, God totally revealed, His bursting lights, the essence of God being revealed in this physical world, in a physical time, and will be a dwelling place for blessed be He in the lowest realms. And on the contrary, it would so. The Rebbe is going to say that being on the lowest realms is the highest level. This is the perfection of the spirituality. So why is this perfected? We said spirituality is also okay. But really, the spirituality is not yet perfected. He says, which is therefore, in the time to come, the soul receives nourishment from the body. How do we see this? We know that the soul receives nourishment from the body, so therefore we can say that the soul, to be to the whole highest level, has to be by the times of redemption. Because at that time he will receive from the body. Therefore the redemption in the physicality of the world will bring the redemption throughout all the worlds and levels above. So therefore we're going to soon affect everything, all the universes. Thank you so much, everybody. Mitzvah Hashem, hopefully I think we're going to finish this next time. And then we're going to go into more interesting things. This is an amazing thing. We really have to, I do recommend people, if you like this, get the book, read over and go over it. And you can Google also Tzvi Rao for YouTube, and you can also go to the Royal Words for Eliyahu Ben Yomenson for this. You can Google it.
What was the other name?
Eliyahu Ben Yomenson.
Is that how you Google it?
That's how you Google it, Ben Yomenson.
Repeat it.
Eliyahu Ben Yomenson. So thank you, everybody, and we'll, Mitzvah Hashem. As I said always, it hasn't happened yet, but we should be in the third base of Mikdash now.